Hello and welcome to Spotlights. This is the podcast for the Yale Forum on Religion and Ecology. And as usual, I'm your host, Sam Mickey. And today I'm really happy to welcome onto the show Huda Alkaff. Huda, thanks for making time for us.
Thank you.
So for folks who might not know you, you're an ecologist, environmental educator, and the founder and director of Wisconsin Green Muslims, which is a grassroots group in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, formed in 2005, connecting faith, environmental justice, and sustainability through education and service. And you've received a lot of awards and recognitions that are really quite remarkable. I'll just mention a couple. You received recognitions from the 2015 White House Champions of Change for Faith Climate Justice Leaders by President Obama, and the 2016 Sierra Club Great Waters Group Environmental Hero of the Year. So both pretty remarkable, and just a couple among many other recognitions you've received. And you have higher education degrees in conservation ecology, sustainable development, and science and environmental education from the University of Georgia. So really doing amazing work. I'm really happy to hear more about it. So thanks for being here. And to start with, just tell people a little bit about what your work is. I know you have some slides to share with us as well.
Yes, thank you very much. So I'm a connector as well as, and that's why I'm an ecologist actually. So connecting faith, environmental justice, sustainability, and healing through education and service. So I start with the first indigenous land acknowledgement. So this map is an attempt to show the ancestral and unceded traditional territories of the indigenous peoples in this country. In Wisconsin, I acknowledge that we are on traditional Potawatomi, Ho-Chunk, and Menominee homeland along the southwest shores of Michigami, North America's largest system of freshwater lakes, where the Milwaukee, Menominee, and Kinnickinnic rivers meet. And the peoples of Wisconsin, Saugeen, and Anishinaabe, Ho-Chunk, Menominee, Oneida, and Mohican nations remain present. So Wisconsin Green Muslims, we are in our 17 years this year. It's a grassroots environmental justice group formed in 2005. Our intention is to educate ourselves and the Muslim community and the public at large about the Islamic environmental teachings, and to apply these teachings in daily life, and to collaborate with everyone about working towards a just, sustainable, and healthy future. WisconsinGreenMuslims.org is our website. So our two primary sources are the Quran, the holy book for Muslims, and the Hadith, the reports and the sayings of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Combined with science, I'm an ecologist, I'm an environmental educator, and we design programs, activities, educational programs and activities, and with service projects for the community. The Quran has 114 chapters. So these are some of the chapter titles of the Quran: the cow, the bees, the light, the ants, the spider, the star, the iron, the people, the pen, the dawn, the sun, the moon, the night, the day, the fig, the elephant. There's so many stories and lessons. For Muslims, we orient ourselves with the moon. So we have a lunar calendar, 12 months, and we are now in the 10th month of this lunar calendar. We celebrate the beginning of the month with the crescent moon, and that's when you see the symbol of Islam that has really the crescent in it. And then the moon, when it's middle of the month, that's the full moon. And we, as I mentioned, we are in the 10th month. So we just finished our holy month of Ramadan, of daily fasting from dawn to dusk. And we have 2 more months to go in this year. And then not only the moon that is critical and center in our tradition, but also the sun. So it really, that's what determines our daily prayers. We have 5 daily prayers. And how we orient ourselves with that is through the sun and the movement of the earth around the sun. So we have the dawn prayer, Fajr. We have the noon prayer, Dhuhr. We have the Asr prayer, the afternoon prayer. We have the sunset prayer, which is the Maghrib prayer, and then the evening prayer, the Isha. And then there's so many voluntary prayers that like in the middle of the night and so on and so forth. But then, and our prayers are a prayer with movements, so we can see here some of the movements
Right.
of our prayers, like bowing and prostrating and up and down. So
that's
so
beautiful. Yeah, I like seeing the the kind of cosmological orientation. And it's easy to forget about that. We think prayers, oh, you're just talking to God. It's like, well, you're also participating in these natural cycles. And I wonder if you could say a little bit more about the Quran and the Hadith as two key sources for thinking about Islam and ecology.
Yeah, thank you. So the earth is mentioned more than 450 times in the
Oh,
Quran.
wow.
And we looked in our different verses, and these are signs, like these are wonders. They're not only signs in the written signs, but also we know that there are signs of wonders around us in all of what God has created. So God has made you his viceroys on earth, the Quran chapter 6, verse 165. And the earth we have spread out, set there on mountains, firm and immovable, and produced therein all kinds of things in due balance. The Quran chapter 15, verse 19. And the word balance is a key concept in Islam, that everything was created in balance. And it's our goal here, or our role as trustees, is to care for that and not upset the balance.
Right.
And of course, that means justice. So justice is centered, so balance of justice that God has set up in order that you may not transgress due balance. So establish weight with justice and fall not short in the balance. It is God who has spread out the earth for all God's creatures. It's really crucial here. And then these are the signs of God. We rehearse them to thee in truth, and God brings no injustice to any of God's creatures. The Quran chapter 3, verse 108. And then in the Hadith, Prophet Muhammad, God's peace and blessings be upon him, is reported to have said, if doomsday is about to take place, while any one of us has a tree sapling in our hand, which we can cultivate, let's cultivate it, for we will be rewarded. So this message of active hope really inspires me. And that's how I see Wisconsin Green Muslims is my tree sapling that I really can take forward and make a difference with it.
Nice. I love that quote. Yeah, the doomsday one. That's so important. People can easily feel very hopeless in a situation where, like, I'm not sure if it's going to come out and work. And you're like, well, even if it's ending tomorrow, you can still plant that sapling. So I wonder, if you could say a little bit more about, how does Wisconsin Green Muslims figure this into your plan for the different kinds of education and service work that you do?
Yeah, that has been the question of of our times, how we can do everything we wanted to do. And it was very challenging. But then we landed on this model of the open circle model of monthly themes. So we are now focusing on a theme each month. So January, we start with networking, which is like really connecting with different Islamic schools, Islamic institutions, telling them about the plan for the year. And we start with climate change, because that's really the climate crisis is the issue of the day of us all impacted communities. And then in water is in March, that's our focus. And April, we had Interfaith Earth Month. We have different themes during that month. Ramadan this year was in April to May. And then in May now we are looking into organic fair trades, and as well as our community vegetable gardens. September focus on transit, and October is Energy Awareness Month, and November is Zero Waste. And then we end the month with, again, grounding ourselves in why we're doing this work, is environmental justice. And then we connect all these dots. All of these issues are connected, but just helping us to focus on this one theme a month. And we have reasons for why each month it's always connects with something that's happening nationally or globally. So it helps us with the resources and just motivating the community when it's connected with something that's bigger than us.
Right.
So for water, I mean, definitely we look at what's the teachings in the Quran. So in the Quran, and we send down blessed water, rain from the sky, and we produce there in gardens and grain, every kind of harvest that are reaped. So, and the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, do not waste water, even if we were at a running stream. So, and he used to practice this whenever we pray. Before praying, we washed, sacred wash. So he used to only use 2 handfuls of water for that, whereas we use a lot of water. So our goal is clear, is to reach that goal, is how we can conserve water, because it's sacred and because water is life. And we have an initiative called Faithful Rainwater Harvesting, or Farah, which means joy. And it's really an interfaith initiative that really brings people of faith together to celebrate water and caring for Earth. And like, I just want to show here, because water was central, and it has been a focus for our Earth Month. So here we had the poster contest for K-12 kids, and this was one of the winners. So here, there's a poster that says, it's an interfaith poster. So you have the Muslim and the Christian, both planting together, both united and watering the plants. So, and growing those, tending to the garden of life together. And then in Ramadan, we have different themes. So whatever we've been doing throughout the year, that's the peak now in the Ramadan, the holy month for Muslims. So we have a calendar now. Each day is an action item. Oh, wow. But it's all grounded in whatever we've been doing throughout the year. But it's just centering that month. So whether it's plant a tree or reflect on, listen, find a spot outdoors, observe, or think prayerfully, or read the Quran. There are more than 1,500 verses in the Quran that really has some environmental aspect or justice aspects in it, and so on and so forth. Don't pollute, walk, and support fossil-free economy, and many other items. Power down, unplug, and support community agriculture, and many others. So it's open to everyone's input and dedication. So, and then we remind our community with the daily messages. So the same thing, it's here, we see that. So find the most environmentally friendly way you can to get to the masjids, and just reminding them of different verses and lessons. Plant a tree, as I mentioned, go meat free today, and why we need to do that. And then I like to say that the Green Ramadan campaign started in Wisconsin 17 years ago, but now it's going nationally. So there are now like 20 states that have the Green Ramadan campaign in them. And I'm a founding member of the Islamic Society of North America's Green Initiatives team, Green Message Project. So, and I'm glad to also say that we've been collaborating with those Islamic institutions nationally, and as well as collaborating with the Environmental Protection Agency, so to publish this workbook for Muslim communities to reduce their ecological footprint. So that's some of the activities that we've been working on. I'd like really also to mention one of our dear to heart activities is transit equities. I'm a transit rider, so I really care about how to make transit accessible, more accessible to our community. And we work with the students, with the people of disability and elderly and others who really care about transit affordability and access. So this is a national initiative, but we were part of the organizing team to celebrate Rosa Parks' birthday on February 4th as Transit Equity Day. So to really elevate the issue of transit, yeah, it is a climate issue, it is an environmental issue, but it is a civil rights issue.
Right.
And we honored Rosa Parks with a rose, and we reserved a seat on the buses here in Wisconsin with educational posters telling people what did Rosa Parks do for transit, for her rights, for our rights. So yeah, that was really powerful message.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. That's very, very powerful. Wonder, one of the months was dedicated to energy, and which obviously is very closely related to the transit issue. I like how you point out like all these different months intersect, and yet you divide them in a way where you give extra attention to each one for each month. So I'd love to hear more about the interfaith energy awareness.
Yeah, we really center light as sacredness of light. And why is that? Because we were asking this question, how can the unifying power of solar energy, of the light, help overcome Islamophobia in Wisconsin? Because we know that there is a rise in Islamophobia. So like how we can counter darkness with light.
Nice.
And as a faith community, we initiated this faith communities for equitable solar. And we asked the community to generate just solar guiding principles that are rooted in our collective values of justice, equity, and inclusion. And we asked, what are the barriers and bridges for a just and equitable solar power? So the community landed into these two pathways: energy efficiency to solar. We found that energy efficiency first comes, and then that savings from energy efficiency installations and modifications and changes in the facilities. Those savings can lead to the solar project itself. And then also another pathway is solar trainings to jobs. And I'm gonna also mention what we have successfully launched this year after so many years of really saving and fundraising. So as I mentioned, really centering light and love in this work around energy democracy. And we've reached 7,000 people in Wisconsin, and primarily looking at underserved communities, but also how we are advancing just solar while building interfaith relationships. So this really, it's a circle. As I mentioned, we are having this open circle, and we connect with 19 different faith traditions and spiritualities. And this initiative goes side by side with the faithful rainwater harvesting, because water and light are really powerful. Both are the commons, and both are sacred gifts and trusts. And we need to really appreciate them into our lives and congregations, and not turn our backs to them when switch on fossil fuels or waste their gifts, these gifts and resources. So this in the bottom left, this is one of the projects that we initiated with the community. This is in really community-centered, community-led project, and it's in a community garden where the need was water. Like how can we irrigate our plots rented plots with water, and we don't have access to water. So it has this harvesting of water from rainwater into an underground cistern project. And then we needed a source of energy to pump that water. So solar came here, and the solar really helped to pump the water from this underground cistern. And now it's became accessible to the community. So this project really is a demonstration of the connection between light and water and food and community, and really strengthens the power of community leadership, because they are the ones who designed it. They're the ones who came up with the idea and the need. And I really like to highlight that. And it's located nearby our shared office. So we always like refer to it as a demonstration of people's power and energy democracy.
Oh, that's a great example.
And these are some of the other interfaith projects and communities that we've interacted with, and you can find them in our website. We have faithandsolar.org. That's a website that we are running, as well as our website, wisconsingreenmuslims.org, under the Faith and Solar tab. So I would like to talk about the solar training project that came from the community, that the community said that there is a need for that. And so after so many years of building this project and fundraising for it, we finally received funding this year.
Hey, all right.
To go ahead with it on a pilot basis. So yeah, this is a curriculum that's been developed and tested over several years. I personally went through that myself, and it leads to a national certification. And this provides a full scholarship for underserved communities.
Oh, that's great.
It goes, and it has we've developed it such that it provides a full scholarship. It provides mentorship, and it provides stipends after people finish so they finish the project. And it can be on self-paced online, can be like asynchronous or synchronous, and also with the lab and hands-on components. So we are really testing this year, and we want to see how it goes. I'm really looking forward to that. And the reason this initiative also came about is because when I personally did this training in 2017 in Wisconsin, I entered the room. The room was big, huge, many people in it. It was people from different ages, different professional backgrounds, different locations from the Midwest, but I was the only woman in the room. Not to mention the only person of color in the room. And I said, this needs to change. But since 2017 till now, I finally was able to, like, with partners, we're partnering with the Midwest Renewable Energy Association, who provide the training itself and the certification, the national certification. So it's a solid program, but it lacked the scholarship, it lacked the mentorship, it lacked the stipend. So hopefully with putting these other pieces together, we can really make a change in the solar industry. And I also would like to mention that women of color are only 1% of the solar industry workforce. So we really need to change that. So yeah,
that's remarkable. Yeah, I really, speaking of the importance of fighting Islamophobia, that seems like such great work to do that, because it's the common ground we all share, things like rainwater, sunlight, and to build that kind of interfaith coalition around that. And and it can help undo those, terrible binds of hate that some people find themselves in, hate and fear of just what they don't know. It's like, well, we can come together with light and water, just the simple gifts of the earth. I think another really big common thread, at least for Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, one of the things that really motivates a lot of environmental concern is a concern for justice, right? It's a core value that they all share. So I know you do a lot of work centering environmental justice. It's the focus for your December, right? And it's closing out the solar year with environmental justice. So can you say a little bit more? How do you center environmental justice in your work?
Yeah, the reason it's in December is because December 10 is Human Rights Day, so
Oh,
International Human Rights Day. So we say environmental justice is a human rights issue, but that just grounds ourselves like why we're doing this work, and we end the year with the bang, as they say. But it's definitely connected throughout the year. So yeah, so environmental justice work that we do is through community meetings, letters and calls, rallies, social media, testimonies, organizing, meeting decision makers, listening sessions. Like we get involved in all these aspects of the work. And last year we celebrated with many others 30 years of the first National People of Color Environmental Leadership Summit that took place in October 1991, where the 17 principles for environmental justice were adopted. At this meeting, 1,000 people from all over the United States and territories, mostly people of color there, because it's led by people of color. They really established the grounding of what environmental justice is. And so we highlight that. And after that, in 1996, the Hamas principles were adopted to be inclusive, emphasis on bottom-up organizing, let people speak for themselves, work together in solidarity, mutuality, build just relationships among ourselves, and commitment to self-transformation. These are all principles that guide our work, and also like to ensure public involvement of economically disadvantaged and minority groups in decision-making, and prevent disproportionately high and adverse impacts of decisions on economically disadvantaged and minority groups, and to assure economically disadvantaged and minority groups receive proportionate share of the benefits. With all these components, that's how we can build and maintain and tend to this world of healthy environments and equitable society and vibrant economy. So that's how environmental justice can thrive. And I'd like to really celebrate here with everyone about, so this work took place since 2019. We really worked on demanding that our state, Wisconsin, establish an office for environmental justice. We don't have that, whereas our neighboring states, they do have some entity around environmental justice, but in Wisconsin we did not. And we've met with the governor and the lieutenant governor and staff, and along with other community members, we kept asking for that. What can we do? We need to do that. And through a long and process, it took so many years and so many attempts, different ways. Just finally on April 22nd, the governor went ahead with establishing through an executive order, because there was no other way except that, in Wisconsin, and establishing an office for environmental justice. And so this celebration took place in a very meaningful way, in a very meaningful location. It took place at the Indian Community School, an elementary school for Native kids in Wisconsin. And so really was a very powerful message for the future and for justice and for faith, because I was one of the speakers at that event. and really like how we connected with the indigenous communities around those centering justice in our work. So that was really a big celebration. And so with that, I really, in our blessed days here of the 10th month of the Islamic calendar, we are in our month of Shawwal. I really pray for environmental justice for all, and we hope that we can move things forward for everyone. Yeah, thank you.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I really appreciate how much, on the one hand, you're so rooted in your Islamic faith, and at the same time doing so much interfaith work simultaneously. That can be hard to juggle. People are often, you pick one religion and stick with it, or you do interfaith work. And so it's nice to see how much you're really rooted in drawing out those Islamic principles, but also reaching out to other faiths and other groups in the community. I think that's really remarkable. I wonder, one on a personal note, I'm always curious how people get into this kind of work. Because I think a lot of people, if they think of environmental issues, they think of like science or engineering or something like that. And people who think of religion aren't necessarily thinking about environment. And so, what do you put that together? And some people, who knows, maybe might have been something in early childhood where you saw God and nature, or maybe it was a course you took or something. What made you think, if I'm going to do environmental work, it's got to be faith-based work, or if I'm going to do faith-based work, it's got to be oriented toward the environment. How did religion and ecology come together for you personally?
Yeah, it came, as I mentioned at the beginning, I'm a connector. So I started like early on in my childhood, of course, in awe of everything that's around me, and always asking questions like how, why, what's this? How is this happening? And it cannot, the answer does not come by itself. It has to be this because of that, because because of this connection to this, because of the impact of this other factor. So I saw there are this impacts that are and links that are important in solving the puzzle. So in my education, I pursued two bachelors in two majors, one in biology and one in chemistry.
Oh.
And I was not really content with this division of two different departments. They do not talk to each other, going from one department to the other, and like something is missing. It's just, that's not fulfilling. So, and then I found ecology. Yeah, ecology is the science of interdependence, interconnections, and it explains that one thing is connected to the other, and all this forms the web of connections. That made sense to me. And not only that, I went ahead with being a systems ecologist. And so systems ecology like really looks at the big picture and looks at all the patterns that are happening in the system and why those parts are connected with each other, what the influence of each one on the other, whether it's direct or indirect, but it's all part of the story. And so, yeah, that made sense to me. And okay, well, I'm a Muslim, and how does this connect with me? I mean, I'm in awe of all that's around us and within us. And I'm proud Muslim. And so faith has to be part of this system. It cannot be in isolation. So it made sense to me to be a whole person is to incorporate faith into what I do and what I think. And that made sense to me. Yeah, it is. As a systems ecologist, that makes sense because that looks at the big picture, and you can't have any missing gaps or holes there. The story would not be told in its fullest way. So that made sense to me, and so I pursued it, and I found that there is a need for that, like really for those two different fields to be conversing with each other. And so I said, yeah, I can, it's naturally comes to me. So I can be that bridge to live my faith and to really bring everything that I'm in awe of to share it, because I'm also an environmental educator. So that just came naturally to me. But yeah, but I also have another story, and I think that had an impact on why I'm dedicating my life to interfaith work. And I think it's okay to share it. So in the year 2000, here in Wisconsin, I was so excited to find an interfaith environmental group. So I connected with them, and I was asking them how and when will I join. I did not ask, can I join? I was asking how and when will I join? But the answer was no, we do not accept Muslims.
Really?
So I was shocked and in pain and everything. And then I think that definitely had an impact on me. And I was like, no, this cannot be the way it is. So that really centered the importance of being together, working together. So initiating interfaith work and leading interfaith work. So that was part of why I felt it's important to be that bridge.
Right. That's great. Yeah, both such good stories. Just coming at it through ecology. It's like, well, if everything's interconnected, faith has got to be in the mix. And then to know that there's interfaith groups that aren't including Muslims is just, I mean, I get it. It's such a problem in the United States and has been for a while, and the history of, Islamophobia and things like that. But if you're called interfaith, you'd think that they'd welcome you. I think sometimes interfaith groups just mean like Catholics and Protestants or something, and they're not really reaching out. So that's great that you met that resistance by being like, oh, I'll just go start my own thing. And then what? It would have been 5 years later, I guess, that you started Wisconsin Green Muslims.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really remarkable. It's such inspiring work. And, I teach some stuff on like religion and ecology and things like that. And the biggest question from students is always like, okay, this is nice. How do we make it happen in the actual world? How do we really make change on the ground? And you're doing exactly that kind of work. So thank you. Thank you for all people who are trying to do interfaith work at all, but especially people who are focusing on environmental justice and sustainability and recovering a more holistic relationship to our place on the planet. So I better let you go, and we'll have to talk another time because you've got a lot of good stories, and stuff keeps happening. Even the executive order that was just a few weeks ago. So I mean, things are happening. So yeah, we'll have to have you back on sometime to chat more.
Right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks to everybody watching or listening. And we'll be back next week with some more conversations for you. In the meantime, take care and be well.